These selections are in following Selection Sunday, and now we know who is dancing and who is not. So it's time for us to preview the NCAA tournament. We're going to do it with New York Post sports reporter Zach Braziller, who joins me now. It's been a busy day for you, Zach. How are you doing, man?
I'll probably do better than Big East fans and St. John's fans. You know, obviously a really bad day. To get just 3 bids for the league that was ranked second in the country by Ken Pom, to me, I thought the committee did an awful job. Not just the Big East. Some of these selections, Florida Atlantic as an 8 seed, Virginia the last team in. A lot of it really didn't make sense to me. But ultimately, you can't have the second-ranked team in the country, second-ranked conference in the country, with the heavy favorite to win the national championship and get 3 teams. You want to pick St. John's with the metrics, fine. You want to pick Seton Hall because they beat UConn. You want to pick Providence, they have 6 quad 1 wins. Pick one of them. You know, like the committee chair said, well, with St. John's, they had a poor quad 1 record. I mean, Virginia was 2-7 in quad 1. St. John's was 4-10. St. John's had a much better net ranking. It really didn't add up, some of these picks. Florida Atlantic, who has 2 quad 4 losses, 2 quad 1 wins, is an 8 seed. I don't understand how Florida State is so easily in the tournament. Florida Atlantic is so easily in the tournament. I mean, I think what they did last year probably helped them a ton, because if they were just, some other, like Indiana State didn't make it. I understand Florida Atlantic did have the win over Arizona neutral site. That obviously carried the day. My biggest problem with the committee is it was just inconsistent. Some teams with a good net rating and not a lot of good wins got in. Some teams with a good net rating and not a lot of good wins, like St. John's, didn't get in. Some teams with a bad net rating and good wins got in. Some teams with a bad rating, they kind of picked and choose what they wanted to do. And to me, there was just no consistency.
Yeah, I think that's the major problem. You're seeing a lot of complaints around social media from people about the committee and selections. And I think it's a consistency, as you're saying, Zach, that is the main problem for a lot of people. And Zach, here in New York, the big news is that St. John's was not selected for the NCAA tournament. They weren't named as one of the first 4 out by the committee. What did you make of the Johnnies not making the dance, the big dance here? I understand it must be disappointment from fans, but for you as somebody who covers the team, what did you make of them not making the tournament?
Yeah, look, clearly they didn't have enough wins against the field. Only had the win against Creighton. Clearly the eye test wasn't something they factored in because, if you watch them play at the Big East tournament this week, there's no doubt they're a tournament team. They manhandled Seton Hall. I think they probably gave UConn the toughest game UConn's going to get all year, the rest of the season. Lost by 5 to UConn. I thought they played really well. Look, when you're on the bubble, you're leaving it in the committee's hands. And they clearly, that stretch where they lost 8 of 10, when they had leads in about 5 or 6 games at halftime, they win a few of those games, they're in the tournament. The game at Creighton, where they got 2 brutal calls in the last minute, lost by 1, they win that game, and they really should have won the game. They're probably in the tournament. Another really good win probably gets them in. They took too long to get going. That said, I think they should have been in the tournament. I think Seton Hall has a very good argument to be in the tournament. I think Providence has a very good argument to be in the tournament. And I think the lesson for St. John's next year is don't leave it to chance. They took too long to get going. There's no question about that. It's incredibly disappointing, I think, for this team and fans because they played so well late. They had won 6 of 7. The one loss, obviously, to UConn. They beat Creighton pretty handily. They won at Butler, had some other good wins, and they're really, really rounding into form. Now, they're not going to do the NIT, so it's transfer portal season, and it's going to be a very different-looking team next year. It was a fascinating team to cover on so many levels, obviously with Rick Pitino at the top of that list. And it's weird when there's no finality to it. You leave Friday after a tough loss to Connecticut, you think they're a tournament team, and then all chaos breaks loose with 5 bid stealers, and then you find out the committee, for whatever reason, was really down on the Big East and down on St. John's. And I keep going back to what the committee chair said today, where they didn't have a good enough record in quad 1 games, and 4-10, I get that, but you look at other teams had bad quad 1 records, Michigan State, Virginia. And Michigan State wasn't really even close to the cut line. They were a 9 seed. I just think there was a lot of moving the goalposts with the committee. And, it kind of, I think it kind of leaves people wondering, like, what was the exact, what was the exact reasons for certain teams getting in, certain teams not, because I don't think those answers were provided at all today on the media call. And with some of the selections, I think just left a lot of ambiguity that people really kind of are confused by.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people confused, a lot of St. John's. While I think it was a good year for the program in turning things around, disappointing finish with them not getting into the tournament. Zach, let's look at the tournament very quickly. UConn is the #1 overall seed in the tournament, top seed in the East region. Who do you like to come out of the East?
Look, Connecticut's going to come out of the East. They're going to win it all again. I felt this way for months. I think they're even better than they were last year. Now, I do think the committee made it tough on them. You get Auburn as a 4 seed. That's a potential Sweet 16 game. Iowa State, who really, in my opinion, should have been the 4th #1. They do not have an easy draw at all. I think they're gonna get through. I just think they're too good. And having the second weekend in Boston, it's obviously gonna feel like stores over there. But it's not easy. I do like UConn though to get through. But I do think Auburn will give them a challenge, and I think Iowa State could create real problems for them.
All right, like UConn getting through, and you think they're the best team in the country right now. In the South region, you got Houston. They are the top seed. We just saw them get beat down by Iowa State in the conference championship game. Do you like the Cougars to make a run to the Final Four, or is there another team that you like coming out of the South?
Look, the South is really good. You got Kentucky, you got Duke, you got Marquette. I still like Houston to get through. I think they got their clunker out of the way yesterday. I'm picking Houston. It's not going all chalk. I'm picking these 2 ones, and then we'll get interest. We'll get a little more interesting. But yeah, I do think Houston gets there. They're just so good defensively. They're great on the glass. Jamal Sheaton is a terrific guard. But no, kind of like UConn, where they got some tough games here. With Kentucky, with Marquette, with Duke, there are some potential roadblocks there. But yeah, I do think Houston gets through. Look, I think sometimes it's a good thing to get a bad game out of the way in the conference tournament for when you're one of the favorites, and I think that happened with Houston.
All right, yeah, they did have a bad game against Iowa State, which they got blown out, but maybe they get that out the way and they're able to get through their region. Moving on to the Midwest, Purdue, they grabbed the top seed. Now, the Boilermakers, they disappointed last year in the tournament, getting bounced in the first round by FDU. Who comes out of the Midwest? Is it the Boilermakers or some other school?
Look, I think Purdue was done some favors here. I'm not high on the rest of this region, at least on there at the top side. I think they're going to lose to Creighton in the Elite Eight. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner could slow down Edey enough, and I think Creighton losing early in the Big East tournament was good for them. They don't have a lot of depth. They play their starters heavy minutes. Losing that quarterfinal at Providence in the long run, I think will be good for them. They'll be fresh. I really like this team. Trey Alexander is underrated nationally. He's a terrific guard. Stephen Ashworth is coming along. Kalkbrenner is such a good defender. He doesn't foul. I do think Purdue gets to the Elite Eight, but they're not getting to the Final Four. Creighton, and it gives the Big East something to smile about after this disaster of a day.
Oh, look at there. I like that. I like that. Creighton sticking it to the committee, getting to the Final Four. We'd like to see that. That's not bad at all. Lastly, we got the Tar Heels as the #1 seed out west. Is North Carolina a team that you see in a down year for the ACC making it to the Final Four in this tournament?
I was very yesterday's performance kind of put some red flags up for me from Carolina. It really did. There was a lot I didn't like about what I saw. I think Michigan State's beating Carolina in the second round. I think there are going to be upsets left and right in this region. I think Arizona loses early. I'm going with an Elite Eight of St. Mary's, New Mexico, with St. Mary's getting to the Final Four. I know people are going to tell me I'm crazy. I can't wait for text or call from Mark Hale, but we're my boss, Mark Hale, here at the Post. But no, I thought St. Mary's was a second weekend team last year if they didn't run into UConn. It's a team that's won 23 of 25 games. They just beat Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference Championship. They've been red hot. They're terrific defensively. They got good size. Aiden Mahaney is a terrific guard. I think this region is going to blow up. It's going to be the one region where it's going to go haywire. And I am picking St. Mary's, New Mexico Elite Eight, with St. Mary's getting to the Final Four.
St. Mary's and New Mexico in the Elite Eight. We got Zach out here saying it with his chest. And you're right, Zach. Deputy Editor Mark Hale, he will be coming for you just like he did when you picked Washington to be one of the 4 teams to compete for the national championship in football.
Well, we already have dinner on the line. I got UConn. He has the field, and so we already got dinner on the line with that. I probably should have checked my wife, who usually beats me in the office pool, but I went on a limb there. And, Christina will probably have gloating to do, and I'm sure Mark will do too if UConn doesn't win. But I'm sticking with my guns.
All right, sticking with it. We like your Final Four picks there. Folks can check that out on NewYorkPost.com as well. Zach, enjoy the tournament. I'm sure you'll want to give a little bit more words to the committee, as you will for sure. Appreciate it.
You going to come to Brooklyn, hang out with me this week? What do you think?
You know what? I got to do that. I actually forgot that there were going to be some tournament games in Brooklyn. I got to come through and say hi. It would have been nicer to come through and say hi.
UConn and Duke, man. UConn and Duke in Brooklyn. Let's go.
You know what? We got to do that. You know what? It would have been nicer, Zach? If Pitt was playing in Brooklyn, that would have been nicer. But the committee didn't do a good job with that either. But, that's for another day. That's for another day. That is Zach Braziller, great sports reporter for the New York Post. Zach, I will talk to you more throughout the tournament. We will talk soon, man. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
You too.